I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how. Today I'm talking about the business of indie filmmaking versus the art of it, and how you can service both masters if you're clever. If you're liking my stuff, please subscribe and hit that little bell deal down there. Not sure what it does, but I'm told it's important. Anywho, how do you serve both masters? How do you stay faithful to your artistic intent, your artistic creativity, and still serve the commerce side of it? How do you make something that fulfills you creatively and is still good business? First off, it's important to understand just how rough the indie filmmaking game has gotten over the past few years. I've been looking at numbers from over 1,000 independent feature films, all produced between $5,000 and $250,000. And frankly, the results are pretty discouraging. At first glance, it looks like less than 20% are even breaking even. And only about half of those are notably profitable. So based on that, some would say, well, that's all the more reason just to concentrate on the creative. Do it for the love of the game and damn the financial results. But for me, I make a living as a filmmaker, so that's not really a feasible option. Sure, I want to love what I'm doing, and I do, but I also have to make a living doing it. Some would say, do something else and make movies in your spare time. And to that, I say this: if you can be happy doing that, I say go for it. Me, it's not gonna work. I've worked day jobs. I've done all different kinds of work in the past. I've been a barista, a cook, a deckhand, a relief engineer working offshore, and many other things. And I can say with pretty much utmost certainty that I would be miserable doing anything else. So the trick for me to navigating creative and business success was to find the creative joy within the business side as well as the creative. And to learn and accept that the energy and time you have to put into the business stuff on a film has to be equal to or even greater than the effort you put into the creative. Once I accepted that, it was a lot easier. And the business stuff, it doesn't have to be a slog. Believe it or not, it can be fun. And yes, it can be creative. A lot of filmmakers hate it. They hate the business side. But I've learned to love creating my promotional material. It's a completely different type of creation than making the feature, but it's still creation. Making trailers, short clips, graphic design stuff. A few years ago, I could barely even open Photoshop, and I had no real desire to learn. But now, I look forward to creating new posters and art for the movies. I'm still pretty much a novice at it, and I still do pay for art for certain movies, but I almost always at least try to give it a go myself first. Which is another important point of business for indie filmmakers. While I agree that it's super important to know when to ask for help or when to seek out paid help, you can't always afford that. You can't always do it. And keeping a truly independent movie within a reasonable budget is essential to make a profit. So sometimes, within reason, you have to take on as much as you can while still maintaining a good level of quality. And how much you can do this differs for every filmmaker. I've met some people that can multitask all day long and do excellent professional level work in many different areas. But I've also met others that are brilliant filmmakers that are absolutely awesome at one or two things, but they can only handle those one or two things. And if they take on too much, it starts hurting their project. So you need to take a hard look at yourself and how much you can handle and, max that out without hurting the project. There's nothing wrong with either approach, but if you're trying to eke out a living as a truly indie filmmaker, chances are you're going to have to fit a little more into the former category. At least that's how it's worked out for me. And if you do become that jack of all trades, don't ever let anyone passive-aggressively shame you with that bullshit master of none crap, because that's just what it is. Bullshit. There are people out there that work at very advanced levels in many different areas. For example, I used to own a company with this dude. He could do expert level graphic design. In fact, like 70% of our first year income came from him doing graphic design client jobs for one of the biggest and most respected graphic design firms in New York. They would hire him to do jobs that their best people couldn't do. People that did nothing but graphic design 24/7. That same guy, He was also an expert video editor. In addition to our company work, he freelanced for almost every major studio in town, doing promos, trailers, you name it. He was also a great 2D animator. It was when a distributor or financier saw one of his animated shorts, which he did all on his own, that our company transitioned completely into animation. And that's not to mention the 3 feature films which he's directed so far. And he did all of the interior design in our office, which is also stunning. Shit, just writing that, I'm starting to think, shit, man, what the fuck was I doing? Well, pretty much I just sat around and looked pretty until we parted ways. I guess my point with all of that is you can be a jack of all trades and a master of many. And don't let some jealous haters tell you any different. People have a tendency to attack things that threaten them. And when someone with only a skill or two sees another filmmaker that can really do it all, their first instinct is to often make light of it, attack it, because they're threatened. There's a strange divide in the indie world between art and commerce. Once a filmmaker starts talking any kind of serious about the business of filmmaking, you tend to get a lot of pushback from other filmmakers saying stuff like, I just do it for the art and the passion, and if I make any money from it, so be it. If that sentiment is honest, I say that's a pretty healthy attitude. But I have a couple of issues here. Number one, movies cost money, sometimes a lot of money, or at the very least a lot of time. And time is money. That's a thought I wish I'd taken a lot more stock in early on in my career. Our time and others' time has value. Even at the super low budget range, most filmmakers can't make a movie on their own. There are others that need to be involved and need to be compensated. Now, I'm not going to get all heavy and down on other indie filmmakers that don't or can't pay crews. That's not what I'm here for. And honestly, I'd be a hypocrite if I did. I mean, I'll admit it. I've made movies exactly like that in the past, especially early on. I had no real budget. I was just very passionately wanting to make the movie. And I found others that were willing to help and support me in that work. But if you're in it for the long haul and you're making money off your projects, at a certain point, it becomes a moral issue to continue on not paying folk. At least for me. Granted, sometimes you will get people, crew, willing to work for free. Believe it or not, it happens. It happens a lot. For example, I know a few composers that sometimes donate stock tracks to different filmmakers just for credit, and I don't really have an issue with that. I used a couple such tracks in a few of my latest documentaries. I know, exposure, red flag, but here's the thing. I didn't ask him to do it. I didn't solicit it. I didn't ask for free work. It was their idea. They came to me. So I'm okay with using those tracks. Side note, when and if those particular projects that the tracks were used in do earn money, he'll get some surprise compensation. And this, to my way of thinking, is an acceptable way to use some unpaid work on low-budget movies. Filmmaker tips from filmmakers. So I asked some other filmmakers how they navigate art and commerce in independent film. In my broadcasting days, you were on the air, creative time, for only a few hours. Then it was time to do promos, strategic promotional stuff, and business planning. I used the same kind of schedule now, and it works actually better because I don't have those naysayer bosses and sales execs hanging around and adding their opinions. Whatever I create, I own, and that keeps me excited every day. Very inspirational. Great plan. Art is about looking beyond what is conventional. Business is about the conventional and what will sell. So I think both have to be present to perfect your signature as a filmmaker. Whoa.
I think it's about marrying the two together. You have to find what excites you as an artist and line it up with what excites you as a business person. I forever think about how I can make our brand grow and then think about what I can do creatively to achieve that. Once those things are lined up, they both tend to serve each other.
That is a super thoughtful answer, and it's what I try to do myself, but I'm gonna be completely 100 with you fine folk right now. I'm now averaging over a dozen features a year, and some of them are definitely like that, both creatively and financially fulfilling. But there are others that are just straight business. The cool thing is, I love making movies so much, the act of actually making them, that even those business ones sort of become about the passion too. But it's the passion for the process and not always the result. If you'd be so kind, please share this video on your favorite social media platform. And I'm still doing marketing and distribution consultations on my Patreon, as well as giving out producer opportunities, so check that out. But whatever you do, keep making movies.